Hello, Uncle Ukulele here, giving you an introduction to my ukulele book, Ukulele From Scratch. Here's how it looks when you inevitably see it in your music store. And I just want to sort of play through some of it to give you an introduction so you get an idea of what's in it, most of what's in it. It starts off with information about tuning and different kinds of ukuleles, and you can read that. That's fine. You can read that on your own. I want to get to the chords. Start something practical. And the most important chord in the ukulele is the C chord. And it's the one finger chord. I think everyone knows, I think people are born knowing this. I don't know, it's such basic information. It's got a nice sound. You notice that the lowest, what we call the lowest string on a guitar would be the highest string in elevation, but on the ukulele, that note that should be the lowest is among the higher notes that you're playing. So that's called the reentrant tuning, and sometimes the tenor ukes, like what this is, are tuned with a low G note there, but this is a high G, and we're going to teach on that basis. So okay, that's the C chord. It's a major chord. It's got a happy sound. You know, you might, I'm playing with my third finger, but sometimes it's the middle finger you want, or the first finger. And actually, more than you might think, it might be useful to use the pinky on there. Because if you've got the pinky on there, you can get to other chords a little more easily. So you can decide how best to finger. I'll give you the choice if any of those choices work. A brief introduction to chord qualities. That's the major sound. If you move that note down one, that's called major seventh. Major seventh. It's kind of a jazzy sound. The next fret down, that's regular seventh or a dominant seventh, C7 you'd call it. You take the finger off, that's a C6. Notice how we're going down from 8, basically the root note of the C chord, to the 7, to a flatted 7, to a 6. The next place we're going is to the 5th note, the 5, and there's a C5 chord, which has more of a, actually it's a power chord. It's got just 2 notes in it. It's a strong, hollow sound for your heavy metal ukulele needs. The next, now we're getting into the minor sound. Now this requires a little bar. Of course, I had a bar over the first 2 strings for the C5. This is a little more of a bar over 3 strings. It's got that minor, sad sound of a minor chord. If I go one more, that's actually a minor 7th chord. A little bit, not quite as sad as a minor chord, I think. It's a little more bittersweet sounding. So that's a basic roundup of the kind of chord qualities. We're mostly going to be doing major and 7th, and then this minor sound. We won't use a C minor chord very much, but we'll be using minor chords. Okay, so let's take a look. Page 8 in the book, it just gives you a keyboard, and if you know something about keyboard, this may help orient you. But right away we want to talk about, within a key, we're going to be in the key of C. That's the most high, 80% of all the ukulele playing is in the key of C. So the one chord will be the C chord. C, D, E, F, counting up the alphabet, C, D, F will be the 4 chord, and G will be the 5. 1, 4, 5. This is a formula that works for every key that you'll ever get into, and it works across keys, and it's always the case that the 1 chord is sort of the home chord. The 4 chord, and that's F, and then you might know F chord already. 1 to 4, C to F, it's a very friendly interaction back and forth. The 5 chord would be G, a little bit more of a dominant, in fact it's called a dominant chord. It's the dominant chord in the chord family. It's has a stronger push back to the C chord for music theory reasons. But generally what we're going to start with, rather than G, let's go for G7. It's got that bluesy kind of a restless sound. The major chord is pure, and the 7th chord is a little bit pushy, a little bit pushy. So we're going to start off with the 1, 4, 5 in the key of C as the 1 is the C, the 4 is the F, and the 5 is D7. The 5 chord in any family can be a 7th chord or a major chord, but the 1 and the 4 are supposed to be major. Okay, so musical example. Bum, ba, bum, ba. 1, 4, 5. Bum, ba, bum. Or shake it up, baby, now. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Okay. So that's the 1, 4, 5 in order. We might as well talk about strumming before we go into anything else. I would start off by just thinking in terms of 4 downstrokes in a measure of what they call 4/4 time, which is 4 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the most basic strum you can do. If we double time that, and every time you go down, your hand is coming up anyway. Let's use the upstroke and play up as well. So let's go like this. Now, how do you want to play this? I use the back of my index finger, the nail on the way down, back of my thumb on the way back up. That's I like to. Some people just use the thumb. Some people just use finger. Some people use middle finger. Anyway, you can use a pick, whatever you feel like. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay. The next pattern is a little more complicated in that we're going to start leaving out different strums. So instead of down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, it'll be down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Okay. That gap is like punctuation. It makes you feel like, okay, this is the beginning of a measure now. I call that the rock strum pattern. There is what I call the folk strum pattern, which is down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. That's a little harder to get. The key to this is to keep your arm moving. What people tend to do, because of that gap in the middle, down, down, up, right there, people get confused what to do. And what I've seen people do is either this, or they go down, down, up, and pause, and go down, up, down, and that's terrible. So what they get is down, down, up, down, up, down. Or I've seen people go down, down, up, down, up. And that's no good either. Okay, so you've got to put a pause between those 2 upstrokes when there would have been a downstroke. So you have down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Try this. Try going up, 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 down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down. Just a few tips on that. Okay, so strumming, we got some strums going. There are some just examples of how you can get back and forth between the chords. So from C, on page 12, C to F, C to D7. You can play through these exercises, gives you some experience, but it's time. Oh, well, no, I guess here I do talk about the difference between the G and the G7. That's on page 14. Page 15, we get to songs, and this is where you want to start to focus. For example, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. That's a steady stream of down-ups, down, up, and then sometimes that's an appropriate strum pattern. Generally, that gets pretty old pretty fast. On the next tune, Auld Lang Syne, we'll do that rock strum pattern, which is down, down, up, down, up, down. Let all acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind. Next page, the folk strum pattern. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Next example is in 3/4 time, but there are 3 beats in measure. Amazing Grace. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. And then the inevitable Tiny Tim. Tiptoe through the window, by the window, that's the way I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me. Well, so those are the major chords, 1, 4, and 5. 2, 3, and 6 are the minor chords. And it's nice to know those so we can mix those in among the major chords or instead of the major chords. So now we have A minor, one finger. Well, which finger? I don't know, whichever you want to use, one or the other. If you're doing the C, maybe you'll switch. D minor takes 3 fingers. It's a bit crowded for me, particularly even on my tenor uke. I have fat, fingertips, so I got to really work to squeeze them in there. And then the E minor is the other potential minor in the key of C. You'll mostly get the A minor and the D minor. So the other interesting chord to add is I was talking about the 1 and the 5 chord. Well, the 5 chord of the 5 chord is a D7 chord. Make it like this or like this, and this is going to get into something I'm not going to talk much about, but the book gets into the circle of fifths and explain where the number 5 is so important in music. But so, for example, we have Jingle Bells, and this is in the key of C, 1, 4, 5. But I'm going to add this fifth of the fifth, is what it really is. Listen how it sounds. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. I've really technically changed keys a little bit. Don't worry about that part of it. But it's nice to have these other notes that don't quite sound in the same key, but they drive you back to the key. And it's a very nice effect, particularly of the older music that we like to play in ukulele. So now, let's try to put a few of these minor chords and seventh chords. Listen to this. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought? C7. Tonight, should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne. Okay. 5'2", eyes of blue. Oh, what those 5 foot could do. Has anybody seen my gal? That was a stretch of chords from the Circle of Fifths, which this book will explain, not completely how to develop it, but how to know it, how to know what it is, and how to use it. Okay. Let's see. Now, this is an interesting section. I think a lot of people don't really know about this. Going up the neck with a few of these chords is interesting. It's C chord is here, yes. But and the C chord is spelled C-E-G. Okay, don't worry about why. But turns out there are C-E-G notes all over the neck in different octaves and all over the place. And so anywhere you find those 3 notes, you got a C chord. So starting on page 25, I'm showing there's a C. We see in the C5 with those 2 notes. If I add this note here, that's another C chord, because that note is the same as that note, which is in the, well, here it is again. And then I can even add this note, still a C chord. As I go further up the neck, here's a C chord, here's a C chord, here's one, higher octaves of the same notes. Gosh, I got some up here, and this one, these get kind of useless, but they exist. You should know that they exist. But the ones that I really like that I would use as a variation to keep things interesting of this C chord. This one's nice. I like how that sounds. This one's a little maybe strange. I don't know. Maybe I prefer just this one, this C chord, and this one. Pretty rich, I think. 27, page 27, the F chord. Well, the F, you can read the whole page, but what I would go with is this one up here at the 5th fret, bar chord across, pinky 3 frets higher. Listen to this F. Listen to this one. Yeah, just higher octaves of the same notes. That's nice. G chord. This is our G. Well, there's also sort of one here. There's one that I don't like it that much because I don't fit. My fingers don't. It works. It's G. You can hear it's the same notes. What I like is this one, which looks like it is the F chord moved up 2 frets. So there's your C, maybe. Here's an F, and here's a G. Difference. Plenty of examples. There's a, Brother Is Over the Rainbows on page 29. And then, C is the most common key, but there's G, key of G, and those notes would be, the G would be 1, the C is the 4, and the A or A7, I'm sorry, D or D7 is the 5. So you get bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba. And you get a chance to play all the songs from the 4 over again in this new key of G. Examples on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and play along with various songs. There's some music theory. I'll let you read it if you want. It's not a big deal. There's something about the C major scale. Interesting. Again, not that useful at the moment, to us. And then there's the D chord family. And I'm going to show you the A chord family. And just try these different, you get different sounds, different combinations of notes that give you interesting sounds. I think it's easy to stay with C forever and just play C and maybe also, G or F. I go into the F chord family too. But I think you can find a lot more richness if you look around in these different keys and these different chord shapes. 48 is songs in F. Oh, I have an example here. Well, on page 52 is the layout of our 5 chord families, the Cagaphon, C, A, G, F, and D. Okay, they're all laid out. The 1, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4, 5, 5, 7, like a D7, D chord, and a 6 minor. They're all there, so you can refer to that chart if you want to change keys. You Are My Sunshine, listen to this. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine, C7. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. That's an A minor. Please don't take my sunshine away. Nice to know these other locations, these notes. More examples: Amazing Grace, Sweet John B, Circle of Fifths, which you can look through on your own. There's some Christmas tunes that use this information about the Circle of Fifths. There's the rhythm changes. The old I got rhythm, I got music. That progression 1, 6, 2, 5 is known as the rhythm changes because of the song I Got Rhythm. Examples there, how to use the Circle of Fifths again. And finger picking. I want to do a little bit of finger picking here. C chord. Thumb, index, middle, index. Where I could play the lower set of strings. But a nice pattern that I actually use more would be just all 4 strings. Thumb, index, middle, ring. And try to keep these fingers assigned to these strings. So you have should all acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should all acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? Kind of pretty. The other kind of playing well, let's see, there's also, of course, there's 3/4 time. 1, Amazing Grace. So pattern for that. But I think what's really interesting is Travis picking on the ukulele. Travis picking, adapted from the guitar, has the thumb traveling back and forth between the 4th and 3rd strings. Then the index finger is assigned to the 2nd string, middle to the 1st, and what you wind up with is this. It's pretty. Let me see, I believe you have. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. nice, different voice than the strumming effect. And there's also, on this Travis speaking, there's also a pinch pattern where the first note is the thumb and the middle finger playing together on the assigned strings. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. All right. So that's just a taste of finger picking. And now we're getting into different chord qualities and how to mix in some of the jazzier sounds. I'm going to let you just play through those. There's sixth chords, diminished chords, suspended chords. At the end of towards the end of the book, there are some chord and melody arrangements of songs where you have the chord chord with a melody on top of it. There's some examples of doing that. And then the book winds up with, well, minor keys, just a different angle. It ends up with an intro to 12-bar blues. So you've got the A7, all blues chords are seventh chords, D7, and E7. Okay, and the way that the 12-bar blues works, 12 bars, 12 measures, you have, in this case it'll be the A chord for one bar, then the D7 for one bar, A7 for the third bar, and the fourth bar. Now, fifth bar, D7, sixth bar, back to the A7 for the seventh and eighth. For the ninth bar, it's E7. And you can do the this is the typical blues boogie shuffle. I run through all these variations, and there's a little bit of playing lead. I'm working on a blues ukulele book right now, and I'll go a lot more detail in that. But this gives you just like a few pages you can sort of get started on it. Blues in the key of A, E, and C. And then at the end, if you're a glutton for punishment and you understand these chord forms up the neck, it's the Cagathid system, and it explains how all these C chords overlap, G chords overlap, etc. Interesting stuff, but not critical right now. And at the very end, ukulele chord chart, kind of a chord, dictionary that you can use to look up chords without having to figure out how to make them, unless you want to. I think it's good to work on trying to understand how these chords are created, but it's also fine to turn to page 98 and just find the chord you need. Okay, that's the intro. Hope you'll check this book out. It's in the comments below. We'll be putting a link to the website and all that, so you can find where to buy this book. And thanks for your attention. Have a good day. Forgot one thing. The Baritone ukulele book, which I actually wrote first because I was really more of a guitarist to begin with. The Baritone uke is if you take a guitar, say, and just leave off the bottom two strings or the lowest two strings, then you've got what looks like the C chord on the regular ukulele, but you put a capo at the 5th fret. This is now equivalent to the standard ukulele soprano. So if you hear, so this is your C chord on the ukulele. On the baritone, it's a G chord. All the chords have different names. In the baritone ukulele book, it's pretty much the process that I've gone through here. It's not that much different. I just don't have a copy of it in hand. But if you're interested in the baritone, if you're interested in a bridge to the guitar, the baritone ukulele is the way to go. So yeah, just let you know, it's out there, lurking around. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.